Is there a moment as you look at your career that you think you almost gave up? You wanted to just throw
No
in?
way.
No. Oh.
Never.
Okay.
Never. I've got, I think, 3 signs in my office that tell me never to quit. You quit, you're done. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't believe in quitting.
You have such a fascinating story, including you grew up on a dairy farm, and you've previously told Forbes that growing up on this farm, you were not allowed to milk a cow or drive a tractor. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Why is that?
Well, I'm one of 9 girls, and my father, I just think, felt that it was safer. He was always worried about us kids, girls being in the farm. I think he always wanted boys, probably would have stopped at 2, but went on to have 9 girls. He just had us do little tasks. Large tasks were for the men.
But you learned hard work growing up on this farm.
I learned to work, but I didn't work around machinery.
Okay.
It's just the way he was. He was a man's man, and he didn't say that women belonged in the house, but he also didn't encourage getting into business like men.
Now, you've also said that you had to grow up very quickly. What does that mean to you, and why do you say that?
I got pregnant when I was just about 17 years old, and my parents encouraged me, basically told me, you need to marry the father of your son, my baby at the time. And I did, even though it was not it was puppy love and not love. He was a good man, and it only lasted for 3 years. That's when I really started to look at a career, and a career I had always dreamt of having, which was being in business, since I wasn't allowed to be on the farm, but to be engaged in something that I wanted to. And I always pictured myself in a blue suit, having a nice car, and being independent.
So what was your first job?
Oh my goodness, I had a few little jobs. I worked at Parker Penn a little bit for like 3 months. And then the real job that I really decided this is going to be my future is I started to get involved in real estate. And before I was 21 years old. And you could actually sit in a model home. You could sell real estate off from a set of prints. So I got involved in that. And then eventually I got my real estate license. And I was a Playboy bunny. And I don't hide the fact, it's a glorified waitress. And it helped me to be able to pursue my career, which was real estate. And I was over there for about a year. And, you know, making enough money to raise a son.
You and Ken were business partners and life partners, but let's talk about building a business together. When did ABC Supply begin and how?
Ken was a roofer when I met him. He had a roofing contracting firm that was local in Madison and in the Janesville area. And probably 5 years after I knew Ken, we started doing government work for the military. And so many nights with big prints laying all over, trying to determine what we were going to bid to get one of those jobs. So we did that for quite a long time. We realized the need in our industry, the roofing industry, that the manufacturers ran the industry. The manufacturers, each of them, they were the manufacturers of it, but they were also the distributor. If you wanted that kind of shingles, you bought it from the manufacturer. There was no distribution chain across the nation, so there was little pockets of where the products were manufactured, and you generally bought from the manufacturer that was in your area. As we were being roofing contractors in the military, they would spec products that you couldn't get in the areas where they were building. And you just start looking at the need, and over the course of 5-10 years, we realized that there needed to be a distribution chain to be able to offer to the customer, us the contractor, the selection of various manufacturing products across the nation. And so we pursued that. and finally put together a plan. I remember it took us like 2 years to put together the plan on how do we start. I started out by getting an apartment in Beloit. That is the city that really gave us our start. Ken had lived in Janesville and had a piece of real estate. He called himself an entrepreneur, which was a word that now is used in everyday language for years. And so that kind of halted his banking in Janesville. They asked Ken if he knew what an entrepreneur was. And it was kind of a funny conversation because he said, it's a risk taker and we don't do business with risk takers. And we started to bank, and it was Beloit Savings Bank at the time, and they gave us a start. And so we practiced on a wholesale store that sold products for real estate people, just to see what it was like to be a wholesale, let's call it a distributor. We had a little store in Beloit. And from there, we decided we were ready a couple of years later, and we opened up Store 1 for ABC Supply with products that we brought in, shingles from different manufacturers. And we were in business for about 3 years, just buying up lumber yards, a couple here, a couple there. And when we heard that GAF was going to sell off their roofing division of their chemicals and roofing, they had 2 divisions. And I know Ken and I were on vacation, and we flew home and went up and met with GAF and sat with Sam Heyman, who is the CEO, family, owned the company, and 2 young people that had never been to New York and negotiated to buy 13 of their stores. And we accomplished that. It truly is the city that made all the difference to Ken and I. And so I just have found it very rewarding to be able to help Beloit be the city they always wanted to be.
If you look out 1 to 5 years, what do you want to be able to say about Beloit and what you've done for the community?
It's already becoming this little jewel in southern Wisconsin, because when you start adding value to a community, everybody picks up their game, and it's wonderful. These businesses wouldn't be here if I hadn't invested in the buildings. You know, the hotel, that was a condo complex that we built, and that's all been sold now. The building next to it is the hotel, the one across the street is the hotel and the restaurants. So when you have a community and you're trying to make it thrive, you need to see what the need of the community is. Basically, our goal, Ken's and mine at the time, was to put life back in these buildings. And that's what we've done here. We call this the spine. It's about the middle of what was the Beloit Corporation, a major factory. They made all of the paper making machinery in the world was here, the largest, and they went broke, had in foreclosure about 20 years ago.
And when did you buy it?
About 4 years later. And it took a long time just to get it all put together. And it was all empty. It was really sad. Everything from the very end of this block all the way up to the only building on Portland, everything belonged to the Beloit Corp. And it was a family-owned business, and they sold it to a company in Milwaukee, and with one year, they put it into bankruptcy, which was just so sad for even the fact that the company had closed. It had never come back after the recession.
You've been smart with your acquisitions. I want to jump ahead.
Go ahead.
I think that was a savvy strategy you employed during the 2008 financial crisis. Obviously, not a good time for housing, the housing market, the market that depends on the goods that you sell. Can you talk about what you did then? Because you have referred to it as the biggest risk you've ever taken.
Well, I lost my husband in 7, but you could feel that recession coming on. It was very scary, very, very scary. So it really became evident that we were in a recession in late of 2008, 2009. We had about 250 locations at that time. that we'd acquired over the course of my husband. We started when Ken was 40, I was 33. A lot of people think, well, you just started business and you started ABC. No, it didn't work like that. It was years of trying other businesses and actually developing businesses. We had, and still have some of them. But the recession was, we just buckled down and did what you do in a recession, You cut back on this, cut back on that. But there was an acquisition that came available, and it was Bradco. And there was no way I could oversee that acquisition at that time. It was a large company, not as large as we were at that time, but I had to take on a partner, an investment partner, and I had to give up 40-some% of my shares. We've always owned everything. We owned it. We're a sub-S. Took pride in owning and being able to operate our companies. But this one was one that I knew the company, and it had to be done. And it really is painful to give up control and to bring in investment bankers. But we structured it that if I could give them the return, like they always want a return within 5 years, I would buy my shares back.
Did you buy your shares back?
Yes. We bought them back in 3.5 years. And I still get shivers right now because I felt I had risked the company that I wanted my children to run when we're not here. It's not a company that's ever going to be for sale. It's a strong company. We changed the industry. The whole nation now has a distributor in between. You can buy any product any place in the nation. Manufacturers aren't running, the regional distribution of materials. And it makes the choice and the contract, everything better. It really, really was an amazing thing that we did by starting out with 2 stores and 3 stores and distributing various manufactured products. And it's what made ABC so powerful. But to make that acquisition at that time, during a recession, felt like I was risking it all. But I knew that it was a good company we were buying, and it's proven to be one of the best acquisitions we ever did. But you can't see into the future. You can't see that far into the future. So it was difficult, but great team. I have a great team. Had a great team then, and everybody believed that we could get it done. And you have to trust your experts within the companies that we have, and we did it.
You have an incubator around here.
We have an incubator. It's on the other side.
And
Correct.
what are the companies that you incubate? What are you investing
Oh, any companies that come here and want space, and they share, in common support staff, things like that. But we're very much into innovation. I mean, that really is what we're about, whether there's a actual building that does that, or if we just, in our personal selves, get involved in bringing business to town. Economic growth is what makes buildings survive. Depending on the tech company, or there's a battery company that makes batteries, different batteries than we're having today. Blue Battery it's called. We've invested in that. These are innovation, entrepreneurial ideas that we feel, it's not just an idea. They've usually taken it to one step where they actually have, initiated the product. Everybody's got an idea. You've got to first, is it real? Is it a real idea?
As an entrepreneur, as an owner, what do you look for in an acquisition, and how do you know it's the right fit?
When you do acquisitions, you learn the word diligence, because you've got to look under the covers more than once and see what you're buying to make sure that it makes financial sense, and is there really a need, or should we move somewhere else?
If you had to summarize what has made the company so successful, we've talked about acquisition. What do you think the secret to your success has been?
Hiring great people, surrounding myself with people of good integrity, knowing knowing the need of the different businesses, that I've invested in. We did it because we knew there was a need in the industry, but we also knew that we had to build the best company with the best people we could find. And we did. We're the best company in America, I think, because of the people that make it up.
People always make the difference.
They make all the difference in the world.
You and Ken seem to have a real, true partnership in every sense of the word. And I recognize that, but I'm also curious, because this business has so many elements to it, and you've also made investments in Beloit, what's your baby? What's Diane's best idea?
The school, you've got to have a future, and we build futures for children. Over there's a golf lab, there's a career tech, because we do a lot of education for the children after school that don't belong to the TLA school. But there's like 800 children that come here over the course of the year. It's all about learning careers and tech. There's a lot of tech also being taught. It's going to need a little bit of funding because charter schools aren't welcome in Wisconsin. And so we only get about 2/3 of what public schools get, and we educate the same children only. So we have to continue to feed that. Generally, you figure out what you're going to put into something and at least break even, but the school wasn't so. I'm hoping that the public school will revisit what they're teaching and get the other 5,600 kids in Beloit truly educated to have a quality life. Our public school system across the nation has major problems, especially in Beloit. They've suffered in the school system the numbers that children are graduating and their ability to get on with their life. It's very difficult, very difficult. So it got to the point that the only way that we could really help is to put competition in the city and to actually start a school, build a school, and embrace educating the children so that they don't just graduate, but they graduate with knowledge. And we're doing that. We're 1 year old. In math, we doubled what they had learned, 200% in 1 year. The mission for our school is that you will graduate and you will already know a career, maybe nursing, because we do a lot of vocational training. It's fabulous what we're doing there with kids. So with that said, I'm really proud.
What did you want to be when you grew up? I mean, we're talking here for the 50 over 50, and I love asking people, did you ever imagine your over 50 career when you were a teen or in your 20s?
I tell this story as I remember the day I stood at the window in the farmhouse and thought, I don't want to be a farmer. I don't want to marry a farmer. I was 10, and I dreamed about wearing that blue suit and going to the city. I lived in Osseo, Wisconsin. The city I wanted to go to was Minneapolis because it was the biggest city close by. And my two older sisters, one was working up there already. I knew what I didn't want to do. You do dream. If you don't dream, you don't have a goal. You don't know where you're going to go. You have to think about your future. And I think thinking about your future, the younger you are, the more you start looking at those careers. You just notice what's going on in life. Now I'm facing, life on this earth is, I'm not done. That's the most frustrating part, I think, of getting old, is, golly, there's still so much to do.
What do you want to do?
More education, more for the school, more for the people that have helped me, just to give back in many ways. We had to take down a building that was dry rotted, it was dangerous, it had to come down right in the middle of the block. So it's built like it was there forever. And on the building, my name. And I didn't know that until Rob brought me down and he goes, I want to show you something, I know you're not going to be happy. And he goes, and it's like, Rob. He goes, I didn't do it for you. I did it for your grandkids, because you're not here to tell them. And so I did that for your grandkids to see your name up there and what you've done for Beloit. So that's the only place that says Diane.
Why don't you want your name anywhere else?
I don't need it there. I just don't need. That's something I don't need. Some people need that recognition. I just I'm happy seeing the city come back. My life is so exciting when it comes to growing. That's what it does. It brings people and gives them purpose and pleasure. I guess my big hope, I'm old. I've had a blessed life. And I wanted to be in business. I'm in business. And I know my children will pick up when I leave. My son is my CEO at my holding company, and he oversees the 16 companies that we oversee. And so he's learning that, and I'm comfortable in saying I can, pass the wand to my kids, and they love the city too. I'm independent, and I'm proud of what I work for and I earn, and I still have those same values. I pass it on to my children. They've all worked. My grandchildren. I get asked all the time, why do you still go to work? You're ancient, my kids. and like, Mom, why are you still going to work? You're 75 years old. It's like I'm healthy. I love what I do. I'm still growing companies. Why would I quit? I don't give advice usually. People have to figure things out themselves, but I tell my children, just, if you want to do that, just do it. I just think there's a lot you can learn in life, and I have learned a lot. I didn't go to college. I had to learn what I know, whether it be hard knocks or by mistake. But you learn and you carry that knowledge with you. I know there's more I can do. I just, like everybody, the clock is ticking. I got to hurry up and get it done. So I'm working at it.